right, good morning. Today's lesson is going to be over comparing and ordering integers. Our last lesson we talked about what an integer was. An integer was any whole number and its opposite, correct? And we talked about that we have our positive integers on the right side of the number line and our negative integers on the left side of our number line, correct? All right, so now we're going to use that knowledge of where they fall on the number line to be able to compare them and decide, is -5 greater than, less than, or equal to 7? Okay, so here we have some integers. We have -5, 2, 0, -3, and 4. I'm going to graph those on my number line. I've got -5, +2, 0, -3, and +4. All right, that was pretty easy, right? We talked about that last lesson about where to make sure that each of our numbers are going to fall. All right, so now we're going to put these in order from least to greatest. What was that vocabulary word that means least to greatest, the big kid word? Raise your hand, come on, come on. Yes, sir. Okay, so there's ascending and descending, but which one means least to greatest? You're right, those are the two big kid words, but which one means ascending? Yes, sir.
Least.
Well, which one, ascending or descending, means least to greatest?
Descending.
Yes, sir.
Least to greatest.
Which is
Ascending.
ascending. Remember we talked about that there's ascending and descending. One of them means least to greatest, the other one is greatest to least. I remember it because I remember descending starts with what letter? D. And down starts with what word? D. So I remember descending is going down. That means greatest to least. So then the opposite of descending would be ascending, right? That's how I remember it. So we're going to put these integers in ascending order from least to greatest. So looking at my number line that I have here, up until now you've always dealt with the numbers to the right, correct? And we know that the further away from 0 I got, the bigger the number got, correct? Well, when I'm on the opposite side of 0, the opposite thing occurs. The further away from 0 I get, the smaller I get. Remember, opposite side of 0, opposite thought process, okay? I like to put on my number line an L and a G. Because as I travel to the right on my number line, no matter where I start, if I go from left to right, my numbers are going to be getting bigger. That's going to be the least to greatest. So on my number line, what is my least number? Yes, ma'am. -5, right? Then what comes next? Yes, ma'am. -3. Then what comes next? Yes, ma'am. 0. Then what comes next? Yes, ma'am. 2. And last but not least is, everybody?
4.
All right. So I now have put my numbers in least to greatest. So the biggest difference on here is I have to think to myself, when I have that negative in front of it, it means that I have to think the opposite. So therefore, if I gave you -5 and -3, you have to take it out of your brain, oh, 5 is bigger than 3. Because when I put it in that negative sign, the further away from 0 I get, the smaller I get. And I sometimes visually in my brain, I draw a number line in my mind and say, okay, where would this be? This would be way over here. This would be over here. And I visually see this number line. Because once I put it on the number line, it was really easy to put them in order. And if I were to say, okay, let's put these in descending order, you'd be able to do it quickly. Because if I'm doing descending, I'm going from the greatest to the least. And I would just find my dots, right? All right, so now let's talk about comparing them, given two integers and deciding whether it's going to be greater than or less than. All right, but I want to talk just a moment about our symbols here. We're in big kid school, so we have to use the big kid terminology. We don't say the alligator eats this number or whatever. You can think that, but don't say it.
Nope.
Okay? We use the words greater than. We use the words less than. These are called inequalities, and I'm going to write that out here. Inequalities. That's what these things are called. So now you can go home today, and when your parents ask, "What'd you learn today?" you can say, "I learned about inequalities." Parents are going to go, and that is what? You're like, those greater than and less than symbols. That's what they're called. That's the terminology. So let me just make sure. What symbol does that mean? Greater than or less than? Okay, let me do a visual here. We got some less and I got some greater. So what I do is I have a hard time sometimes remembering. I don't just see that symbol and go, "Oh, I know what that is." So I kind of, in my mind, I go, okay, that would make it true. So 5 is what? Greater than. So this symbol means greater than. So I have to put my numbers in there for me to remember which one was what. And then this symbol means what? Less than. All right. So now we can go ahead and read our comparing integer statements. -3 is what? Raise your hand. Is it greater than or less than +3? Yes, ma'am. It is less than. Would y'all agree? Because if I put it on a number line, -3 is further left, so it's further less than +3. 100 is what of -120? Yes, sir. Is greater than. Positive numbers will always be greater than negative numbers. What about 0 is what of -2? Yes, ma'am. Let's use big kid word. There you go. Greater than. And then -10 is, yes, ma'am?
Greater than.
Very good. -10 is greater than -14 because remember, these are both negative, so that's on the opposite. I have to think opposite. The further away from 0 I go, the smaller I get, right? Yes? All right, y'all ready to do a little bit of practice? Yeah? All right. All right.